the darkness.
Senate Democrats come out and say that they don't want to negotiate anymore and they just want to get the budget passed despite who is in opposition. So we'll talk just a bit about that, including the fact that Kirsten Gillibrand didn't show up to vote for the Paycheck Fairness Act, and that rumpled a lot of other feathers. So a lot of stuff going on from the Senate, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. A video from a dash cam showing a police officer using a pit maneuver on a pregnant lady's car sparks controversy and a big argument as to who was in the right for that. So we'll actually watch the video and we'll decide in the chat who was in the right and who was not. So we'll look forward to that. New information has come out about the day that Donald Trump went for his famous photo op during the St. George riots, and it doesn't look good for the mainstream press. So we'll discuss a little bit about what that means and what that could mean going forward. And France is sending over a new Lady Liberty statue, but it's tiny. Regardless, we'll have to say thank you to them after their president got bitch slapped. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, hi there. Good morning. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got some interesting stuff to do. I don't want to say it's a bunch of stuff because this is actually sort of a low-volume show today, but there's some interesting stuff to talk about. We might have another 2-hour show at this point. Before we get started, there are actually a couple things I want to do before I get started. First off, thank you to everybody who watches over on Twitch. We got up over to affiliate status, so it's lame that some of you are probably going to see a commercial when you come over to Twitch, but there are some other things that come off with having Twitch affiliation now. You can buy what they call bits from Twitch, and you can use those to tip your favorite creators, which I hope that I call them on that list. I mean, most of you guys sit back and watch me every morning. So I hope that you guys will. Oh, I never did my contemporary announcement either. Let's go do that real quick while I'm talking here. But yeah, I hope that you guys will take some time and throw some bits at me. I think that would be really cool. But I mean, other than that, you'll see a commercial. I'll get a little kickback from that. I'm officially a 1099 employee, which means that I'm going to get taxed out the ass for self-employment and all this other fun stuff. There you go, on-air production for you. Anyway, yeah, if you're monetized, well, I'm monetized over there, so you guys can help me out. You guys can help me out a lot, actually, by sending some of your friends over there. Tell a friend, tell 10 friends. Head on over to Twitch because, you can passively do stuff. There are some other things that go along with that as well. With Twitch, every month, if you have Amazon Prime, you get a free subscription to your favorite channel, which I hope that every once in a while, the guy in the Ghostbuster shirt needs to go out and buy new Ghostbuster shirts too. So, it doesn't have to be every month, but, once a month you get a free subscription. So, hey, every once in a while you could throw it this way, and I'd be a happy guy. I'd be cool with that. And, like I said, even if it's 1 month out of the year, I'd still be really cool with that. So, if you guys want to do that, that's going to be great. Other news, the slightly bad news, I got a hard strike on YouTube this morning. I woke up to it, which means somebody went back and reported me because it didn't take my video was processed already by the time we went to bed last night. But I got hard struck. I know what it was. They hit me for medical misinformation. I'm guessing it was because we listened to that speech from the lady in Ohio who said that vaccines are magnetic and they make you magnetism. I'm guessing that's what the robot caught me for. So I appealed it. I said, no, we were actually making fun of the people who believed that. We weren't spreading that around to say that's absolutely fact. We were making fun of that. I'm sure I thought that they would have got me for saying that actually nothing bad happened out of the 2020 election. But keep an eye out. There will always be Instagram. So if you've got a smartphone, go over, check out Instagram.com/JEdgar102. And no matter what happens with any of these other channels, we will always be on Instagram, and I will give you information as to where to find the rest of the channels, whether it be the Twitch, the DLive, the Trovo, which I need to fix because that's having problems again, or the backup YouTube channel. I do have a backup YouTube channel, all set in the wings, ready to go as well. So pay attention to that. Keep in mind, I will let you know where to find those links if something were to happen. We will not go down. We will not let YouTube and the big tech take us down. Especially after coming this far and not getting a hit. Seriously. I'm like the most milquetoast apparently person on Freedom Scoop. But yep, I got my first hard strike. So pay attention to that, and this will always be there. Definitely will always be there. All right, let's get into... Well, before we get into that, let's head on over and check out our friends over at the Freedom Scoop Media Group, where we carry great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Breckenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brit Show. Head on over there. Pardon our dust, we remain under construction, but once we get back up and running, we will have great shows such we have the great shows. We'll have great merch and great opportunities for you to pick up and help us support great creators. So, yeah. Definitely head on over there, come and hang out with us, and hang out with all of my friends over on the alt media community. All right, into your finance for the morning. The Dow dropped again. It dropped and then it tried to hold back up, but it can't hold on right now. People are starting to see what's happening with this, with the jobs report. People are starting to see where we're going down the road, what's going to be happening down with this. People are starting to realize what's happening with inflation, and they keep trying to hold it back up, but it's too wary of a market right now. I wouldn't blame anybody for selling off. I'm actually a little bit surprised to see that the Bitcoin was coming back up last night. I haven't looked to see what it's at yet today, but I was surprised to see it was coming back up yet last night. So we'll talk a bit about what this means and what's happening with this as we go into yet another travel week, which I'll have an announcement for that up at the end of the show as well. So come back and hang out with us till the end, and I'll tell you what's coming up in the next couple weeks. So with that, we'll go on with the rest of the finance here. I don't have live chat up for you guys. On your Bitcoin is back up. We saw 32,000 yesterday. It's up to 37,064 US dollars and 90 US cents, which means that rebound looks like it's coming back. And it's still what I would consider to be on sale for what Bitcoin has been and what people were predicting for the end of the year. People were saying $400,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. I don't see it, but I could see 100,000. Maybe not now because of all the dump that went on with it, but maybe we could see it happen. But definitely pay attention to that, and not official financial advice, but possibly go ahead and take a look at whether or not Bitcoin is right for you while it's on sale right now. On your fuel, this whole thing with a discount, I've actually got to check into that too, because at some point I'm going to have to fill up because, well, I'm going to my mom and dad's this weekend for a wedding, and I'll be taking a trip that we'll be making the announcement for later on, early next month. So a couple things going on with that we need to pay attention to. But I want to see what happens with this discounted prices here that they're showing. 264 is your low price leader over on Cottage Grove Road at the Mobile. Otherwise, we're seeing your 267s, your 273s, a little bit of 280 level, but for the most part, looks like we're holding steady right now, which is surprising given the fact that we shut down a pipeline and shut down another one coming from this, and our foreign oil is right now being diverted to Russia through Nord Stream. I'd expect it to be a little bit higher, to be completely honest, but we will see what happens with it. We will watch it as it continues to go. Let's see what is at the finance at the top of the day. All right, from IBD. Dow Jones Futures, market rally eyes inflation data. GME stock falls on share sale plans. RH earnings surge from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures edged higher Thursday morning, while S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures dipped. The stock market rally fell slightly Wednesday, while Treasury yields touched recent lows ahead of key inflation data. Signet and RH earnings were in focus. GameStop, the original meme stock, topped quarter one earnings forecast and named a new CEO and CFO late Wednesday, adding to its stable of former ex-Amazon executives. The company also said it plans to sell up to 5 million shares at the market and announced an SEC probe into the trading of its shares. The little people are making money. We have to investigate why. Fuck you. GME stock fell overnight but pared initial losses. That followed a generally weak session for Reddit-fueled stocks. Clover Health reversed lower, and AMC Entertainment, Wendy's, and Bed Bath & Beyond all retreated. Lordstown Motors whipsawed unchanged. Some new meme stocks took off, including already hot steelmaker Cleveland Cliffs. RH nearly quadrupled earnings in the first quarter, with sales soaring. RH stock jumped, flashing early buy signals. Signet Jewelers crushed EPS views. I wonder if a bunch of people got trapped in their homes for a year, not able to go out and do anything else, and started making babies and realized, hey, we better get married if we're going to make a whole bunch of babies. I wonder if that's going to be a thing. Reversing a year earlier loss with revenue doubling, SIG stock jumped 7% before the open after closing just below its 50-day line. A strong post-earnings move would offer an early entry as Signet works towards a flat base buy point. That would be interesting to see if we're starting to see a bunch of diamond rings and marriages and weddings come out of this becoming fucking coof. That's interesting. CPI report on tap. The Labor Department will release the May Consumer Price Index at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, just a couple minutes ago. Economists expect a 0.4% rise in consumer prices overall, and excluding food and energy following big spikes in April. Consumer inflation is expected to climb 4.6% from April's 4.2% year-over-year gain. Core inflation should hit 3.4%, up from April's 3%. Both would be long-term highs, and we're going to talk a bit about what that means too. What could be coming up for the inflation, because there's some shifty shit going on. I'm a little bit glad that I actually saw something on this yesterday on Twitter. I happened to glance at Twitter when they were talking about reverse repo. So a little bit of going on with that. We'll see what's happening with that. On your Treasury yields, the 10-year Treasury yield rose 1 basis point to 150 on Wednesday. The 10-year yield fell 4 basis points to 1.49% after matching a 3-month low of 1.47% intraday. A hot inflation report has the potential for pushing up the benchmark Treasury yield, if only as a reversion to the mean. Why have Treasury yields fallen sharply over the past week and month? Well, it's probably because the Democrat Party wants to push off the inflation concerns until after the midterms, and possibly after the next presidential election. So I'm guessing they're manipulating the currency, but let's see what the Investors Business Daily has to say. Wall Street is lowering expectations for how much extra spending Congress may approve in the coming months. Also, job growth, while improving in May, still isn't rip-roaring. Job openings are skyrocketing, but employers are struggling to find workers even with substantial pay hikes. Generous jobless benefits, desire to continue staying at home, and structural shifts in the jobs available are all possible factors. Plus, the manipulation of the currency, because they keep printing it, and somehow the Treasury yields don't go up. But we'll talk about that later on. On your futures, Dow futures rose less than 0.1% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures edged lower, and NASDAQ 100 futures fell 0.4%. The CPI report and Treasury yield response will likely influence Dow Jones futures just before Thursday's market open. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Let's see what Market Alpha has to say, and then we'll start getting into some of this big news of the day, and there is plenty. From Seeking Alpha. Oh, they're gonna fucking paywall me. Fuck you. Alright, let's get into the big news of the day then, I guess. Bastards. I read from them too many times. Alright, Representative Jayapal, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, tells Dems to give up bipartisan talks on infrastructure. Starting today from Fox News' Morgan Phillips. Representative Pramila Jayapal of Washington is urging Democrats to abandon hope of a bipartisan deal on infrastructure and instead push through an agreement without GOP support. They don't learn. They don't. Jayapal, chairwoman of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, said in a statement, in case it wasn't clear already, it certainly is now. Republicans are not going to do what needs to be done for working families. Well, that's not infrastructure. Childcare is infrastructure. Baby bottles are infrastructure. Daycare is infrastructure. Free education is infrastructure. We know, Mitch, 100% of my focus is stopping this new administration. Won't be coming around on a deal, the Washington Democrat wrote in an earlier tweet. Time to go big, bold, and alone. She urged Congress to immediately begin working on a budget resolution to pass the American Jobs and Families Plan through reconciliation so we can deliver on our promises. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand also urged the Senate to take up the bill through reconciliation. So that bill, I hope we pass a reconciliation so that it can be bold and responsive to meet the needs. Please do it. Please. I want to see you get bitch slapped in the fucking midterms. The statement came shortly after President Biden walked away from a deal in the making with Senator Shelley Capito of West Virginia to come up with a deal both parties could agree on in lieu of his $2.25 trillion American Jobs Plan. On Wednesday, 90 progressive advocacy groups wrote an open letter to Democrats demanding they move forward on passing Biden's infrastructure agenda through reconciliation, a budget process that allows bills to pass with a simple majority rather than 60 votes. Oh, jeez. Do it. I'm ready to watch it all fucking burn. Even if Democrats want to move forward with one-party infrastructure proposal, they'd be caught in a snag with Senator Joe Manchin. Asked Tuesday whether he'd support using budget reconciliation to pass the package, Manchin said, I'm not even close to the thought process on that. We're just trying to find an infrastructure bill we can all agree on. See, Manchin wants to get reelected the next time around. In deep red West Virginia, The White House is now expected to turn to another group of moderate Democrats and Republicans: Mitt Romney, Jon Tester, Bill Cassidy, Joe Manchin, and Kyrsten Sinema. But Romney has also said no bipartisan deal should include tax hikes and instead proposed increasing user fees and other initiatives to raise funds. Or, just let the lower form of government deal with their own infrastructure. I don't understand why this has to come out of Washington, D.C., except for the little bridges that go across state lines, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that I could understand, but even there, these two states can come back and, oh, hey, I'll do the asphalt on this corner, and you do the one on this corner, and we'll just slap over them, and we'll make a deal. But it's coming to time where they're getting pissed off, and they're trying to jack through everything they can onto this infrastructure bill because they blew their wad on COVID relief. They absolutely blew their wad on that. And the parliamentarians said they don't get that third one. They're stuck. This is their last one. So they're going to try and jack as much stuff through this one as they can as far as the budget and the infrastructure going together. And they're going to get bitch slapped in the midterms. And a lot of people pointed out, how great it was that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, didn't that go through budget reconciliation too? I'm pretty positive it did. But what happened in the midterms? When you pissed off half the country that looked at, the evil orange man was bad on top of that too. But when you just went through and, hey, we're just going to take this because we can, because we've got a 51-seat majority in the Senate, you got your asses handed to you. Well, you gained more of a Senate, but you got your asses handed to you in the House in the midterms. Because you didn't try to sell the jobs plan to the other half of the country. Because you just took it and called it a day on two simple majorities. That and Republicans had a really, really easy map in 2018 too in the Senate. Because only a third of the senators go up every other year. And that was a really, really easy map for them. But yes, absolutely. Do it. Do it. I want to watch it burn at this point. I just want to see, if you keep spending money like this and jamming your agenda down people's throats and keep talking about end the filibuster to jam your agenda down people's throats with a failed administration that can't sell its agenda to half the American people, you're going to get ass blasted in the midterms. Unless, of course, there's some sort of election fraud coming up in the midterms, but that never happens. And all elections, except for the 2016 election, are completely above board. Hong Kong, Biden is the most popular president in history, getting more votes than even Barack Obama. And yeah, they're done. They're done playing around. They're just going to take what they want and do it. So get ready to sit back and watch. That's what I have to say about this. All right, let's grab one from Axios. Senate fails to advance the Paycheck Fairness Act, from Oriana Gonzalez. The Senate on Tuesday failed to advance the Paycheck Fairness Act, a legislation intended to address the gender pay gap. We all know already. The 49 to 50 votes saw Democrats in support and Republicans opposed. At least 60 votes were required to end the filibuster and move the measure to the floor for a vote. The bill would provide more effective remedies to victims of discrimination in the payment of wages on the basis of sex. Pennsylvania Rep. Brian Fitzpatrick was the only Republican to vote in favor. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said Monday that Democrats' agenda is up against GOP resistance and is transparently designed to fail, CNN writes. Most Republicans support the Wage Equity Act, introduced by Representative Elise Stefanik of New York, which would encourage companies to voluntarily analyze employee pay and direct GAO, an independent government agency, to study the impacts of women leaving the workforce for family-related reasons. The only way that a bill to provide equal pay to women is designed to fail is if Senate Republicans block it, Senate Majority Leader Charles U. Schumer said per CNN. If the Republican leader wants to talk about radical positions, I'd say opposing legislation to provide equal pay for women, supported by a solid majority of voters, is a radical position. We've been talking about the wage gap for years now, with no action taken by the Senate. Women with the same jobs, the same degrees, sometimes even better degrees than male colleagues are making less money. For women of color, the gap between them and their male colleagues is even wider, he said. Okay, well, address those employers specifically. But also take in mind the fact that women tend to go off and have families, and they tend to want to be the one to stay home and raise the children. So take that back into account. Take into account the time off. Take into account the negotiating prices and the negotiating abilities. And you're not always going to find the same data that you come out with. I know it sounds really good to come off and say, oh, evil Republicans are oppressing women and oh my God, but really, honestly, they're not. And once again, this is another one of those things that could be dealt with much better on a state level rather than going on the national stage. Maybe create a little bit of competition between the states. Wouldn't that be nice? But they're all pissy about this, and the 50 to 49, that is because, according to this tweet here, Chip Franklin, InsideTheBeltway.com, tweets out, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand was the only senator to miss voting on the Paycheck Fairness Act, which was defeated 50 to 49. I remember her high horse condemnation of Al Franken when Franklin did nothing. Excuse me, did nothing but fight for gender equity. Sometimes I hate our party. All right, from the Wall Street Journal. A little bit more information on this. Gender wage gap legislation blocked by Senate Republicans. From Siobhan Hughes. Senate Republicans blocked legislation that Democrats said would narrow the gender wage gap, a disparity that took on heightened significance during the pandemic as women disproportionately left the workforce or lost their jobs. The vote was 49 to 50 on a procedural motion to take up the legislation, with Democrats voting yes and all Republicans voting no. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand was absent Tuesday, but even had she voted, Democrats would have fallen short of the 60 votes needed to overcome Republican opposition. The move to block the Paycheck Fairness Act marks the second filibuster so far this year. The legislation narrowly passed the House 217 to 210 over the objection of many Republicans who argue that the law would lead to a flurry of spurious lawsuits from employers seeking higher pay. Yeah, there's that too. The legislation aimed to increase penalties for violations of federal law that already prohibits wage discrimination on the basis of sex, as well as enhancing prohibitions to prevent retaliation against workers who lodge a discrimination complaint and badging contracts that block employees from sharing their salaries. So, between these two articles, between Axios and the Wall Street Journal here, we do see a difference in the way they seem to be getting their statistics. Axios is telling us that this is absolutely 100%. The women have the same degree or a better degree in the same job, and the evil business owners are just paying them less because they're evil and they want their women to be their wage slaves. And they want their women to be chained to the stove, and they secretly want the Handmaid's Tale out here. They're doing the same job, the same pay, or the same job, same degree, same qualifications, same everything else. Whereas it seems, coming back out of the Wall Street Journal, they're pointing out the fact that this is actually an aggregated average of all men and all women. All their wages combined throughout the year, and then divided to get generic man hourly wage versus generic woman hourly wage, and say, oh, see, if we take all the women in the country and all the men in the country and average out their pay, men are getting 71%, or what is it? Women are getting 71 cents on the dollar, I think is what they call it. So, even there, and I would consider the Wall Street Journal to be a somewhat left of center publication. Between two left publications, we're getting this completely different information going about this. But that seems to be the way the news goes. Let's keep going. From the Hill. Ocasio-Cortez. Democrats burning precious time with GOP talks. Okay, puppy? From Hannah Trudeau. The Honorable and Venerable Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch, on Wednesday suggested that Democrats risk squandering their majorities in Congress by negotiating with Republicans. The second-term lawmaker who blasted Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell, the Turtle Man, and Republicans who don't even vote for a January 6th commission, cited the early months of the Obama administration as a reloaded Hill page. Thank you for that, The Hill. As a cautionary tale. During the Obama admin, folks thought we'd have a 60 Dem majority for the mainstream media attacking Joe Manchin the way that he does, knowing full well that Jeff Van Drew switched his parties in the middle of his term last year and won, by the way. Knowing full well that happened, and two, knowing full well that Joe Manchin can do the same thing, and then the Turtle Man is the majority leader, and Kamala is stripped of the power that she thinks that she has. And then they turn their ire to Sinema in a red state, who could win as a Republican in a red fucking state. And the same with Manchin, too, by the way, who could win as a Republican in a red state. You seeing the problems here? But no, keep insulting this person. You simple-minded fucking twit. All right, let's grab another one here. Speaking of people who are too stupid to function in Congress, this tweet is from Forbes. Orbit's Rep. Louis Gohmert asked whether the Forest Service or the BLM, that is not Black Lives Matter, that is the Bureau of Land Management, by the way, because I was confused about that for a long time, can alter the orbit of the moon or the Earth in order to fight climate change during a House Natural Resources hearing. Elaine sent me this one. She actually pinged me in this on Twitter yesterday. So I decided we had to add this one to the stack. Let's have a listen.
And understand from what's been testified to, the Forest Service and the BLM, you want very much to work on the issue of climate change. I was informed by the immediate past director of NASA that they have found that the moon's orbit is changing slightly, and so is the Earth's orbit around the sun. We know there's been significant solar flare activity. And so is there anything that the National Forest Service or BLM can do to change the course of the moon's orbit or the Earth's orbit around the sun? Obviously, that would have profound effects on our climate.
I would have to follow up with you on that one, Mr. Gohmert.
Yeah. Well, if you figure out a way that you in the Forest Service can make that change, I'd like to know. Also, just to put on your...
Can we change the orbit of the moon just slightly? I mean, it's possible. Who knows what other effects I'm guessing it's basically possible to do so, but you know, when you change something just a little bit, especially when tides are involved. And I don't think that's having as much effect as they say it is either. But let's listen. Let's see what the Hill has to say once again. Let's go right back to the Hill and see if they reset on me here. Gohmert asked if federal agencies can change Earth's orbit or Moon's orbit to fight climate change. From Joseph Choi. Representative Louis Gohmert on Tuesday asked a representative from the U.S. Forest Service if it was possible to alter the orbit of the moon or the Earth as a way of combating climate change, though it was unclear if he was being serious. Gohmert was speaking with Jennifer Eberlein, Associate Deputy Chief of the National Forest System, during a House Natural Resources Committee hearing. I understand from what's been testified to the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management, if you want very much to work on the issue of climate change, Gohmert said to Eberlein, adding that a past director of NASA had once told him that the orbits of the moon and the Earth were changing. Is there anything that the National Forest Service or the BLM can do to change the course of the moon's orbit or the Earth's orbit around the sun? Gohmert asked Eberlein. Obviously, there would have to be profound effects on our climate. I would have to follow up with you on that one, Mr. Gohmert, Eberlein responded. Well, if you figure out a way that you and the Forest Service can make that change, I'd like to know. This is what's elected to Congress, folks. This is what's elected to Congress. As NASA explains in a blog post, Earth's orbit changes from being close to perfectly circular to being slightly more elliptical in a cycle that takes about 100,000 years. The orbit is currently around as close to being circular as it can be. The angle at which the Earth tilts also shifts slightly or wobbles on its axis over the course of tens of thousands of years. These changes are called Milankovitch cycles after Milutin Milankovic, the Serbian astronomer who first hypothesized them. These shifts affect the Earth's climate in both the short and long term, though they have a relatively minor impact on the planet's seasons and are not behind global warming according to NASA. So, there you go. It's interesting how that works. Let's keep going. I got one from CNN on the same topic. Fact check Gohmert's attempts to connect moon orbits and solar flares to climate change from Holmes Librand. All right, you guys got popcorn? Or maybe some Cheerios or something? Because this is going to be a snack-worthy one. Just grab the tub of popcorn and watch the fireworks as CNN burns their head to try to say, "Evil Republican bad." Republican Representative Louis Gohmert of Texas made an argument about climate change at a House subcommittee hearing Tuesday that appeared to elicit confusion from a government official and ridicule on Twitter. During the Natural Resources Subcommittee hearing, Gohmert appeared to draw a connection between the moon and Earth's orbit and solar flares to climate change in questioning U.S. Forest Service Associate Deputy Chief Jennifer Eberline. Gohmert asked the National Forest Service or Bureau of Land Management could change the orbits of the moon and Earth, making a comment that some saw as an attempt to argue that climate change should be viewed as a natural phenomenon rather than man-made. And it was the dumbest way that he could describe it, but really, honestly, if they're putting this out there, I could see that. I could see where he's trying to draw the connection to say that this happens in cycles and this is natural. But he sounded really, really dumb when he said it the other way. I was informed by the immediate past director of NASA that they have found the moon's orbit is changing slightly, and so is the Earth's orbit around the sun. Yeah, we heard about this. Facts first, Gohmert's remark makes little sense. The insinuation that solar flares or orbital activity cause or greatly contribute to climate change seen today is completely incorrect. Greenhouse gases produced by humans are the primary driver of Earth's rapid warming. So make sure that you little fucking plebs can't run your air conditioner, while those of us at seven-figure suits can do whatever the fuck we want. Gohmert's office did not respond to CNN's request to clarify his remarks, which were widely mocked on Twitter. Brett Schneider, a climate scientist and professor at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, wrote tersely, "We cannot change the Earth's or moon's orbits. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk." Yeah, I can see where he was going with that, to try to say that it's natural, but still, that was about the dumbest. Don't give fire to these fucking idiots over on Twitter. Yes, I understand that there's a natural cycle to this, except for CNN. We have to take the information because something might be misinformation and we might get another hard strike on the YouTube channel, you guys. But there's a chance somewhere in a simulation or a video game that this could all be a natural phenomenon and not human created. But man is it's the fact that man just once decided he wanted to drive a car. Just completely changed the Earth's climate. And he wanted to use electricity. And if we were just agrarian and had more socialism. And that's the other thing too. It's man's desire to be capitalist that's causing climate change. So if we would just be socialist and all drive an electric car, never mind how the electricity gets here, we would save the world. In reality, but in a simulation, it might actually be a natural phenomenon. All right, let's keep going. All right, this one here. So we're going to throw a poll up in the chat here. So we're going to watch the video. Do not vote until we watch the video, and then we'll talk a bit about this afterwards. But I want to see if you guys think that the cop was in the right or the lady was in the right. Elaine over on Twitter, Libertarian Red 1. If you guys don't follow her, do so. Says, "This is dangerous and vindictive. retweeting Stephen Ford, says a cop flipped over a pregnant woman's car because she didn't pull over quick enough. Not only is she what she did not wrong, it's what you're supposed to do, turning on hazards to indicate you're complying and pulling over at the next safe place to do so. This man is still a cop. Let's watch the video and let's see what we think about this. I've watched the video 3 times. I already know what I think about it. You guys probably already know what I think about it too, but I want to see what you guys think. So let's watch the video. After the video, do not vote until after you watch the video. 1 in the chat if you think the cop was in the right. 2 in the chat if you think the lady was in the right. Let's watch.
July 2020, Nicole Harper was driving home on the I-67 and is alleged to have been clocked for speeding by Senior Corporal Rodney Dunn, who claims that she fled. But in the video, we see an obvious decrease in speed as Harper pulls into the right lane and activates her turn signal. She claims it was to indicate she was going to exit the interstate, as the area had a reduced shoulder, regardless of Harper's actions, and indications that she would stop. Corporal Dunn initiates a pit maneuver.
Sidewall. They roll over, get me EMS started. Got the number 3 lane shut down.
All right, what do we think? And there was narration to this, so I think that did taint some of the pool on this too, because the narration came out and pointed out the fact that this woman did try to come off, and she indicated in court that she was planning on going off and stopping where it wasn't safe. So get your votes in. 1 if you think the cop did the right thing. 2 if you think the lady did the right thing. I've already had some conversations about this. I'm not seeing any numbers. I've seen a lot of comments, but I'm not seeing a lot of numbers here. I'm watching. There's a number. I'm guessing I'm going to see a lot of 2s coming up. I look at this, and I actually had a... Yeah, we should burn our community. I had a quite lengthy conversation with my friend Seawall, who thinks that the police officer was actually in the right. And honestly, I don't. Not necessarily. And okay, let's back up to a little bit before the dash cam came on, because we do have additional details as to what happened with this before the dash cam came on. So according to the details that I was able to bring up from this, and some of the narration off of this, the officer clocked the woman at 85 and a 70, turned his lights on, which at that point, if he's catching up to her at 85 and a 70 and at some point overtaking her, she wasn't doing 85 anymore, I can tell you that. I don't care if he has an Explorer or a Taurus. He wasn't catching up to her that way and overtaking her that easily if she was doing 85 still. So just looking at this video, she had her flashers on. She was slowed down. It looked like she was probably doing sub 50 miles an hour. I can't say it because there was no rolling radar on her at the time. But it looked like she was possibly doing sub 50 miles an hour, slowing down, going across the shoulder, looking for an exit because it was a narrow space. Now, and I will tell you this too, because the police will tell you that you're only supposed to pull over to the right. I actually got a warning ticket. I didn't get a fine. He didn't fine me for it, but he gave me a warning because I was on the interstate, a completely dead and open interstate, because it was like 11 o'clock at night. It was back when I was still working second shift. So I was traveling at night, going up to my mom and dad's, dead and open interstate. But I still, because the trucks drive in the right lane in Wisconsin, I pulled over to the left. I pulled over into the left shoulder, and I got a warning ticket for it. In spite of the fact that the window he was going to come up to is on the left side of my car, and the door that he was going to get out to was on the left side of his car. And I got a warning ticket for it. But in any situation, without backup. Now, if there was 3 or 4 squad cars behind him, and this had been a long-term thing, and I saw it in the chat too, by the way. I think it was Vampire Hunter D pointed it out. I saw it in the chat that a pit maneuver in less than 10 minutes, which I don't have the time frame off of this. But if this had been going on for like an hour, and there were 3 squad cars in his backup, and it was still high speed, so-called, I would say, yeah, the pit maneuver might have been justified at this point. But the fact that you come in here and you go and you lead with that, no, you're not in the right. I was also informed that the woman veered towards a car in this video. I did not see that in this particular video. Now, there might be other video floating around where she did, and then I'll have to back up what I'm saying. But in this particular video, I did not see her veering towards a car. I think the cop was in the wrong on this one. The woman was definitely in the right. Other literatures come out that points out, like in the driver's handbook in Arkansas where this happened, it's actually specifically an amendment that says that you are supposed to turn your flashers on and go to a well-lit area, especially if you're a woman, a pregnant woman in a car, and you don't know who it is that's pulling you over. It might be a person impersonating a police officer, and get to a well-lit area like a service station or a mall parking lot or something like that where everyone can see you and everyone's around you, not up on the highway. There's so many factors to this that tell me that a pit maneuver was not the fucking thing to lead with. It just wasn't. But, you know, here we are. I want to read briefly from Newsweek on this one. Just to get a little bit more detail from this, dashcam video shows police officer flipping pregnant woman's car while attempting pit maneuver, from Emma Meyer. A dashcam video from a state trooper's police car in Arkansas showed the trooper nudging another car as he tried to make the driver pull over, resulting in the car flipping on the interstate. Her video reportedly is from July 2020, and Fox 16 reported Nicole Harper, who was a little over 2 months pregnant at the time, was the victim of the wreck. Senior Corporal Rodney Dunn reported that Harper was speeding outside of Jacksonville, so he turned on his lights to pull her over. In the video, Harper reduced her speed and turned her flashers on as she claimed the shoulder of the interstate was too narrow and she could not pull over safely. A cop flipped over. We read the tweet already, and we watched the video. Newsweek reached out to Harper's lawyer, Andrew Norwood, who forwarded a copy of the Arkansas Driver's Manual used to teach new drivers the rules of the road. On page 3, it lists what to do if you're stopped by an officer, and the number 1 on the list is activate your turn signal or emergency flashers to indicate to the officer you're seeking a safe place to stop. Norwood pointed out what Harper did in her situation was verbatim. Still, according to the official complaint and jury demand, 2 minutes and 7 seconds after turning on his lights, Officer Dunn, 2 minutes? That's definitely under 10. 2 minutes and 7 seconds after turning on his lights, Officer Dunn proceeded to perform a precision immobilization technique pit maneuver as he pulled up to the side of her vehicle and nudged to the left side, causing Harper's car to veer across the interstate and hit the concrete median and flip. What was done on Miss Harper was unequivocally deadly, Norwood told Newsweek. He told Fox 16 there was a less dangerous and more safe avenue that could have been taken before flipping her vehicle and making it bounce off a concrete barrier going 60 miles an hour. I think she was going less than 60, dude. Dunn's body mic caught a conversation between the two after the crash. He asked her, "Why didn't you stop?" "Because I didn't feel it was safe," she responded, Dunn said. "Well, this is where you ended up." Harper, according to Norwood, was charged for fleeing. She filed a lawsuit in May against the Arkansas State Police for using negligent and excessive force. Dunn, according to the body mic, can be heard saying, "No, we don't anticipate vehicles rolling over, nor do we want that to happen. Yet you have nudged and put out of control a top-heavy SUV." All you had to do was slow down and stop. "I did slow down. I turned on my hazards. I thought I was doing the right thing," she responded. State Police Director Colonel Bill Bryant sent Fox 16 a statement indicating that over the last 5 years, they've seen over 50% of an increase of drivers refusing to stop, one being pulled over, which results in the use of pit maneuvers, like the one used on Harper. Then you might need some retraining, dudes. In every case, the state troopers used a pit maneuver. The fleeing driver could have chosen to end the pursuit by doing what all law-abiding citizens do every day when a police officer turns on the blue lights. They pull over and stop, read the statement. All law-abiding citizen. What law was being broken? Yes, she was speeding. But after she realized that she was busted for speeding, what law was being broken? Tell me that. Explain it to me, Lucy. Harper and her lawyer, Norwood, are hoping the lawsuit will effectively change some policies and create boundaries around when it's appropriate to use pit maneuvers. Harper expressed to Fox 16 her fear during the incident as she thought she was going to lose her baby. "What if I had kids in the car?" "Exactly," she asked. "He wouldn't have known. Did that matter? What was going through his head? What made him think that was okay?" That's exactly the way this is, too. Now, if you've said 2 minutes and 7 seconds in, tell me how you have safely determined the occupant of the vehicle, the number of other occupants of the vehicle, who is all in danger, and who you have just put into danger. What if there were kids in the car, other than the one that was being carried, and the woman's safe placenta? What if there were other kids in that car? So that is what's going on. That's what that debate is. And I have to go against the state on that. All right, let's keep going. This one came from the Daily Beast, which means, and it came via Yahoo because I didn't want to bother with archiving the Daily fucking Beast. I thought it was interesting, though, so I wanted to see what you guys thought of this. I don't pretend that there's veracity to this claim either, but let's see what happens. State GOPs can't explain millions in Trump victory cash. From Roger Sullenberger. Months after the Federal Election Commission notified several GOP state parties of major gaps in their 2020 fundraising and spending reports, the committees are correcting their numbers, but they still can't explain why the discrepancies occurred. The issue has raised new questions about possible abuse of a long-standing campaign finance loophole that allows wealthy mega donors to cut massive checks. Last year, a number of Republican state parties failed to disclose transfers in the hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars, which violates reporting requirements. There are layers of problems here, but the basic question is whether the state parties complied with federal disclosures requirements. Paul Ryan, Vice President of Policy and Litigation at election reform advocacy group Common Cause, told the Daily Beast, "That lobbying fucking piece of shit. I hate that bastard. I really do. It appears systemic. The FEC has so far sent notices to 10 of those 46 state parties that failed to report high-dollar same-day transfers from joint fundraising committees, and to the RNC. So far, all but one have responded. But their explanations have been incomplete or non-existent. For example, the Rhode Island Republican Party seemed to only acknowledge the error occurs, but did not address how or why the $251,771 US and 78 US cents for the Post General reported was missing on the original 30-day Post General report that was filed, so an amended report was filed to include that. The party later filed another amendment disclosing more than $455,000 in transfers from Trump victory, but did not offer an explanation in that letter either. Don't pretend that you didn't do the same thing when you were House Speaker, Paul Ryan. Because I live in your district and I can find out. I very much can. Wealthy donors are donating to the people no matter how they can. It's Citizens United, which you fought for at one point. Speech? I'm sorry, money is speech, according to you. So you might want to take a backseat to that one. Now, whether or not this is reality, whether or not this is the Daily Beef. So keep in mind, this is a super progressive website. And they're only looking for anything they can skewer a Republican on. But I thought it was interesting. I wanted to read through that one, see what you guys thought of it. All right, let's grab one from Reuters. This was interesting because we talked about the Treasury yield earlier on when we were talking finance. And this popped up yesterday. And I'm very interested to see what this means going forward. And Quest was talking about this in a group chat the other day too. And really, because I haven't had a chance to sit down and really look into this. I had to go do paperwork for the 1099 for Twitch. Last night I had to go set up the show. So I haven't looked deep into this, but I'm interested to see what this means going forwards. Starting with Reuters, and I got another one here from WTV-BAM as well. Fed's reserve repo volume hits all-time high from Reuters staff. The Federal Reserve's reverse repurchase facility on Monday attracted $486.1 billion in cash, a record high with financial institutions lending to the U.S. Central Bank at a 0% interest rate in a sign there are fewer investment options available in a low-yield environment. The financial market has been awash in cash over the last few months given the Fed's asset buying program and the U.S. Treasury's payments to various institutions, entities, and individuals for pandemic relief. The cash has found its way to the reverse repo facility launched in 2013 to mop up excessive liquidity in the repo market. Together with other deposits, the Fed has been draining more than $500 billion per day in bank reserves, according to Barclays. That's a lot of money to be taken back out of circulation. And there isn't a whole lot more information than that in this Reuters article, but that's the first thing to see, is that the Fed is taking some of this money back out of circulation to the level of $500 billion a day. I don't know where they're getting the money from. I don't know what they're doing with the money at this point, but $500 billion a day to take out of circulation because they're probably scared to death of inflation, and inflation destroying the economy at this point. Let's do another one here from WTVB. Fed reverse repo volume sparks worries U.S. short-term rates could go below zero, which puts us right back into late 90s, early 2000s level economic crash. By syndicated content by Gertrude Chavez-Dreyfus. Okay, there's a little bit. I saw Reuters up here, and I thought this was going to be the exact same article that we just read. Financial institutions flush with cash flock to the Federal Reserve's reverse repurchase facility, loaning the U.S. Central Bank money at 0% interest and raising concerns in the bond market that key short-term interest rates could actually fall below zero. Volume at the Fed's overnight reverse repo window surged $433 billion on Tuesday. According to New York Fed data, analysts said that it was the third largest uptake ever, the biggest being $474.6 billion on December 31st, 2015. A little over 2 months ago, around mid-March, there was zero reverse repo activity. Scott Skirm, Executive Vice President in Fixed Income and Repo at Curvature Securities, said the fact that volumes are this huge in a non-month and in a non-quarter end period tells me this is a distortion in the market. Big picture, this suggests to me that quantitative easing is done and the Fed needs to taper or reduce its purchase of U.S. Treasuries and other debt assets. The market is grappling with the surfeit of cash in the system, mainly from Fed asset purchases in the U.S. Treasury's financial support to the economy in response to the coronavirus pandemic. That has pressured front-end interest rates, with some overnight repo rates periodically turning negative this year. On Monday, the overnight repo rate fell to 0.1%, the lowest since late March, but recovered on Tuesday to 0.2%. Negative 0.1% to 0.2%. The Fed launched its reverse repo program in 2013 to soak up extra cash in the repo market and create a strict floor under market rates, particularly its policy rate. Eligible counterparties lend cash to the Fed in return for Treasury collateral on an overnight basis. In this year's March policy meeting, the Fed raised the amount of counterparties that can lend to $80 billion from $30 billion. Together with other deposits, the Fed has been draining more than $500 billion per day in bank reserves, according to Barclays. The fact that balances in these programs are swelling is an indication that money funds, non-U.S. official institutions, and the government state enterprises are struggling to find assets with returns above 0%, said Joseph Abate, Managing Director, Fixed Income Research at Barclays, in a research note. And as their cash holdings increase, they have few investment alternatives outside the Fed's balance sheet. Gennady Goldberg, senior rate strategist at TD Securities, said so far the facility has working as intended as a relief valve for excess cash. Without the reverse repo activity, the money market rates such as SOFR, U.S. secured overnight financing rate, would be pressured lower, possibly below zero, he added. SOFR, an overnight repo rate, will replace LIBOR as a reference rate, has remained pinned at 1 basis point. The effective funds rate the rate banks charge each other for overnight loans to meet reserves required by the U.S. Central Bank is currently 6 basis points, while Treasury bill yields with maturities beyond July are at 0% or just barely above. So there's a lot of stuff going on in here, and I learned a lot about this market just from reading these two articles. So it doesn't look like as much that they're manipulating the currency as it did before, but the fact that we're going on negative interest rates, that you're losing money to go back and do this, does mean that the Federal Reserve is taking some money back up out of circulation, which does mean they're trying to control the way that the currency goes and the way that our inflation goes, which worries me a little bit. It looks like they were doing that towards the end of the Obama presidency as well, to try and make sure that they went into a clean Hillary Clinton win coming up in 2016. This is worrisome. This is something to pay attention to, and almost nobody's reporting on it. But this is going to affect the way your jobs market goes, the way the cash in your pocket goes, and the way your grocery prices go, more than anything else that the job market is doing right now. And there's almost no report on it whatsoever. So this is something we're going to be paying attention to, unless they bury us in complete, utter bullshit like they have been for the past few weeks. All right, let's keep going. Oh, this is an interesting one. Meet the Depressed on Twitter tweets out breaking Interior Deputy IG report says police cleared protesters from DC's Lafayette Park over a fencing installation not for Trump photo op. Ken Dillananian, NBC reports, a narrative we thought we knew is not the reality. Hashtag MTP Daily. Reading from Fox News on this one. Park police say DC protesters cleared because they attacked cops, not because of Trump church visit. Report from Adam Shaw. And nobody believed this, by the way. I mean, you put the information out there coming from Meet the Depressed, and the left-wing progressives said, no, it was just so bunker baby Trump could go have his photo op. I don't believe what Meet the Press says. I don't believe what NBC says. It was just for bunker baby. U.S. Park Police reportedly say protesters near the White House were pushed back by riot police on Monday evening because they were attacking police officers, not because of a visit by President Trump to a nearby church that had been set alight the night before. Trump visits St. John's Episcopal Church, which had been attacked by vandals on Sunday, moments after he addressed the nation, promised to restore law and order amid the protests and riots that have engulfed the country in the wake of the death of St. George, hallowed be his name. But as he did so, protesters were being pushed back by riot police near Lafayette Square, who charged the crowds and used what was reported as being tear gas to disperse them. Media outlets connected the pushback with Trump's visit and described the protesters as peaceful. Park police tear gas peaceful protesters to clear the way for Trump church photo op, read an NPR headline. Protesters dispersed with tear gas so Trump could pose at a church, said the New York Times, a former newspaper story. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Charles U. Schumer issued a joint statement to call out the photo op. Across our country, Americans are protesting for an end to the pattern of racial injustice and brutality we saw most recently in the murder of St. George, hallowed be his name, the statement read. Yet, at a time when our country cries out for unification, the president is ripping it apart, tear-gassing peaceful protesters without provocation, just so that the president could pose for photos outside a church, dishonors every value that faith teaches us. Yeah, if I was Chuck Schumer, I would not be advocating for faith, because you might burst into fucking flames. Neil Augustine tweets out, first on WTOP, U.S. Park Police is explaining its decision-making in clearing Lafayette Square at least 20 minutes before D.C.'s 7 p.m. curfew on night 4 protests. A source says tear gas was never used, instead smoke canisters were deployed, which don't have any uncomfortable irritant in them, and the sources say Park Police didn't know President Trump would be walking across the park several minutes later. Park Police say, and they still don't believe it. There's another tweet here. The immediate pushback from the one that says a source says tear gas was never used. This is a false narrative from Park Police sources to a local reporter. To be clear, I'm not blaming the reporter, who has contextualized this decently, but there was intense irritant in the gas. I was hit with it, as were many others who were accurately described what they saw. The worst part for this is the fact that this came from a trusted news source. Now, Fox News obviously is not a trusted one by them, but this first came from NBC's Meet the Depressed, which is what a lot of these progressives use as their religious ceremony on Sunday. They watch Meet the Depressed instead of going to church, and they bow down to the religion of the government in doing so. And yet they still don't believe it. When Meet the Press came out and said, no, the Park Police said that they weren't doing this because of Trump. They still say it's because of Trump. It's all TDS at this point. That's all of it. And we might be divided to a point where we can't come back together. All right, let's grab one from the LAist. LA Sheriff Villanova, citing politicians in action, says he'll clear Venice Beach homeless camp. From Pablo Cabrera. Oh, with all the years of ACAB going on, this is not going to end well. LA County Sheriff Alex Villanova has inserted himself into the homelessness situation in Venice Beach, visiting the area with several deputies this week after announcing his department is stepping up to clear the encampment there. Let's have a listen.
Need for the resources and have a sense of urgency.
What does that mean?
Well, the City of LA created this problem. This is a failure of leadership from the very top, all the way down. If I go there to the end of Santa Monica, I don't see any tents. There's no stronger argument than the division between these two sides.
That's when you said you'd like to see the boardwalk cleared by July 4th for homeless people?
Yes.
Yeah?
I want to see the boardwalk full of tourists. I want to see the boardwalk full of all the wonderful people here that were selling their crafts and what the Venice was known for. That's what it needs to be. This is not Venice. Need for the resources and have a sense.
Thank you for the follow, by the way, SV Hubert. I just caught that out of the corner of my eye. Yeah, he's going to come off and do this instead. The Oceanfront Walk lands under LAPD jurisdiction, but Villanova says he's sending his homeless outreach service team there. On Tuesday, deputies arrived, as documented by reporters and advocates for unhoused people. At a press conference on a different matter, the sheriff says it's anarchy when it comes to Venice Beach because law enforcement has not been allowed to do their job and regulate public space. The sheriff blamed the homelessness crisis on inaction by the LA County Board of Supervisors and the LA City Council. Councilman Mike Bonin accused Villanova of exploiting the homelessness crisis for personal and political gain and called the sheriff a roadblock to progress. In Venice, we're working to marshal resources to offer housing and services to hundreds of people living in the streets, Bonin said on Twitter. Villanova hasn't offered actual help. So that's what they see going on here. The sheriff is going to get involved, which that'll be fun to watch. Let's grab one from ABC7 on the same topic. LA County Sheriff Alex Villanova to Venice homeless. We're coming from for you. Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanova is blaming the mayor and the Los Angeles City Council for a growing homelessness problem in Venice and is promising to handle it himself, even though law enforcement in that community is the responsibility of the LAPD. If you handcuff the local law enforcement, in this case the Pacific Division of the LAPD, to not enforce the rule of law, bad things will happen, Villanova said Wednesday, so we're taking action. The sheriff on Tuesday ordered 16 deputies who are members of his department's Homeless Outreach Services team, HOST, because of course it's an acronym like that, to begin patrolling the Venice boardwalk. The move has sparked angry backlash from LA City Council member Mike Bonin, who represents Venice. He says Villanova is exploiting the homeless for political gain. That's a cute stunt, Bonin told Eyewitness News. You can certainly house people more cheaply and a lot more effectively without the middlemen with guns. But under Bonin, the number of unhoused people in Venice has continued to grow, as have homeless-related fires, fights, and shootings. Villanova says the blame for the problems rests with Bonin. If you did your job, I would never be in Venice, he said. Venice residents we spoke with are glad to see the deputies on the boardwalk. I welcome the sheriff 100%, said Venice resident Colin Gibbons. It's been a good day that they've come in here, and they're doing something that Bonin should have done a long time ago, but never did. And this is part of where this is going to turn out a little bit badly for them, and we can probably skip the Daily Wire article for this, because this is the next part, and this is going to trigger a lot of people out there. Villanova says it's important for homeless to know that the law in Venice will be enforced and urge those people who come from outside the area to pack up and leave. The people that come here from out of state to set up shop in LA County because they think everyone here is a fool and we're giving away free condos and free everything, well, word to you, we're coming for you. LA cannot be the receiving body for the entire nation's homeless. We're going to be overrun. It's going to destroy our community. But you said that everybody has a right to everything for free over in California. Yeah, coming out here to say that you from out of state don't belong here, that's probably not going to go over well with a lot of people. Let's just touch base. I want to see if there's any video on this Daily Wire article, because they're actually usually really good about doing videos, so. And whatever the hell this is in the middle. Let's refresh this and see if that works. Okay. Yep, oh, that's a 20-minute video. We're not going to sit for 20 minutes and watch this. So, yeah, that's what's happening in Venice Beach. The sheriff is getting involved. That'll be fun to watch, especially in the ACAB time period that we're in. All right, from The Independent. Bitcoin, which countries could follow El Salvador by making it legal tender? I found this from a different source than what was given to me in the Discord. By the way, if you guys aren't in the Discord, hit the link that you see coming up in the chat. And come and join us in the Discord. It's a great time. We get conversations. You can help shape the show because I've got a channel in the Discord where you can put what you want me to cover in there. And if I can find it in green check verified form, I will cover it. I kind of tend to skim over and gloss over the inherently racist stuff, in spite of the fact that a lot of stuff gets put into that tab. But, you know, still, if you want it covered, put it in there and we'll look into it. We'll go see what's going on with it. The Gilded, too, by the way, head in there, too, because that's in there as well. Go ahead and hit that. They're going to paywall this fucker, too. God damn it. Fuck you, Independent. All right, we'll save that one. We'll do that one. Because they paywalled it. All right. Let's grab one from Insider, which I already knew was going to paywall it, so I already archived it. Nearly 1 in 3 Republicans say it's likely that Trump will be reinstated as president this year, a new poll shows. Well, nearly 1 in 3 Republicans is an idiot. because the Constitution has no provision for that. Nancy Pelosi is more likely to be president this year than Trump because of the way the Constitution and the chain of command is set up. I said that, and I got a chill up my spine. Almost 1 in 3 Republican voters say it's at least somewhat likely that former President Trump will be reinstated in 2021, according to a new Morning Consult poll, though there's no feasible way for this to occur. This included 17% of GOP voters who said it's very likely Trump will be reinstated. Meanwhile, most GOP voters, 61%, and the vast majority of Americans overall, including 84% of Democrats, say it's unlikely Trump will be restored to the presidency this year. Now, see, that would have been an accurate headline. Most Republicans know how the Constitution works. But they want to go back and pick on this because then they can say, see, all Republicans are idiots and evil, and they just worship at the feet of their evil orange messiah. But we have to do everything. We can't let Joe Biden do anything because we can't even let you insult Joe Biden because he's a saint. Only 1 in 10 voters say it's very likely Trump will be reinstated. The Morning Consult poll was conducted from June 4th to 7th among 1,990 registered voters with a margin of error of 2 percentage points. So, it's not 2/3 of voters, it's 2/3 of these 2,000 people that they interviewed for this. This new poll is linked to an outlandish conspiracy theory that Trump will be reinstated by the Supreme Court before Labor Day, which has gained momentum among QAnon followers. The New York Times journalist, a former newspaper, Maggie Haberman, also recently reported that Trump is telling close allies he'll be reinstated in August. Blah, 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 blah. Let's do anything we can to not pay attention to the fact that the Fed is buying back assets right now. Because they're worried about the inflation from all the money printing they did this year. Trump is telling people that he might be reinstated. He won't. As soon as the hair-plugged idiot put his hand on the Bible and said, what's my line? Jill, tell me what I'm supposed to say here. Oh, yeah, I promise to uphold, the thing, man. To the best of my ability. So help me. So help me that guy. Any lawsuit, any vote recount, anything else that could possibly be done to say the Trump presidency was out the window. As soon as he touched the Bible, it was over. And like I said, even if they find out that there was massive voter fraud and a stimulation, because we all know that the 2020 election was the most secure election in history, and Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama ever could have combined because he is the most popular president in history, Hong Kong. Even if in a simulation somewhere we find out that something actually did go wrong and states have to be overturned, they wouldn't reinstate the Donald. There's no constitutional authority to do that. The presidency would fall because Biden would have to be impeached and removed from office because that would be a violation of federal law. The presidency would fall to Kamala Harris. However, considering she is on the same ticket, she would also actually most likely have to be removed in that situation. And the next person in line on the chain of command in that situation is Nancy R. Pelosi. That's the constitutional outline for that. Oh my God, that scares the shit out of me. But that's how that would most likely work if something were to happen. In a simulation, of course, because we all know that there was no fraud in the 2020 election, Hong Kong. Biden in his honkler fucking presidency, he was the most popular president ever elected. All right. Clint over on Liberty Lockdown put this tweet out, and then we'll talk a little bit about St. Anthony Fauci, hallowed be his name. This is from Meet the Depressed too, I think? No, it's from MSDNC. A lot of what you're seeing is attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science. The mask is fully off now. This dude is scared to death. Let's have a listen to what St. Anthony had to say.
Now you're at the focal point. What is your level of concern that we're going to discredit public health officials to the point of, look at Russia. They actually have a good vaccine, and none of their citizens will take it because they don't trust their own government.
Right. It's very dangerous, Chuck, because a lot of what you're seeing as attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science. Because all of the things that I have spoken about consistently from the very beginning have been fundamentally based on science. Sometimes those things were inconvenient truths for people, and there was pushback against me. So if you are trying to, get at me as a public health official and a scientist, you're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're attacking science. And anybody that looks at what's going on clearly sees that. You have to be asleep not to see that. That is what's going on. Science and the truth are being attacked.
If you attack me, you're attacking science, okay? And I am science. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of Ian McDermott in his Palpatine makeup. I am the Senate! All right, let's read from what CNBC has to say, actually. Fauci blasts preposterous COVID conspiracies, accuses his critics of attacks on science. From Kevin Bräuninger. A defiant Dr. Anthony Fauci said on Wednesday, lashed out at critics, calling for his ouster, blasting their preposterous and painfully ridiculous attacks, and defending his record as a leading official battling the coronavirus pandemic. Such attacks on me are quite frankly attacks on science, Fauci said in an interview with DNC's Chuck Todd. People want to fire me and put me in jail for what I've done, namely follow the science. No, you made up the science as you went because you got a really, really big rush of power and it went to your fucking head. It happens to all of us. The one time they put me into management, which is part of the reason I don't do management anymore, willingly, they're trying to groom me for management at work right now, and I told them, if you make me a manager, it'll be my last day. I'm not dealing with that shit. But, it's happened to all of us. You get a little bit of management, you get a little bit of authority, it goes to your head, especially if it's one of the first times. This guy has been in the government forever, and the commie fucking coup was the first time that people started paying attention to what he had to say and doing whatever it is that he had to say. At which point, a pandemic response for a Hong Kong worldwide deadly pandemic, where China totally beat the pandemic within days, Hong Kong. We can't do medical misinformation either. So we have to do whatever it is that China tells us is right. Turns into an extended and lengthened game of Fauci says. So, yeah, just stop paying attention to this guy. He changed his mind every day for the past year. Basically tried to figure out what ridiculous shit he could do, or what he can make people do. Oh, well, I think you might need to wear 3 masks now, but definitely you need to be wearing 2. Unless you're considering getting the vaccination, then you have to wear 1. And you won't get COVID if you hop up and down on one leg everywhere you go. If you put that second leg on the ground, you might get the commie coup. So, yeah, that's what we see going on with this. All right, let's grab one from The Blaze that I thought was entertaining. Greta Thunberg complains that Chinese state-owned media is fat-shaming her. From Carlos Garcia. How dare you! Global warming activist Greta Thunberg complained about criticism from Chinese state-owned media after they fat-shamed her in a critical article. Thunberg issued her response in a tweet from her official social media account. Being fat-shamed by Chinese state-owned media is a pretty weird experience by my standards, but it's definitely going on my resume, she tweeted. How dare you! Thunberg was referring to a scathing missive ridiculing her weight on China Daily, the state-owned media outlet. Although she claims to be vegetarian, judging from the results of her growth, her carbon emissions are actually not low, said writer Tang Ji, who also referred to her as an environmental princess. Well, I don't know about the first sentence in this, but on the last one here, where's the lie? Thunberg had recently criticized China for becoming the top producer of greenhouse gas emissions in 2019. Yes, China is still categorized as a developing nation by WTO. They manufacture a lot of our products and so on. But that's, of course, no excuse for ruining my dreams and my future and present living conditions. We can't solve the climate crisis unless China drastically changes course, said Thunberg. I got to give credit where credit's due on that one. I told her from the beginning, I said, if you want to change the way that your global warming goes, don't go after these wealthy Western nations that know that the people will stop buying their products in their wealthy Western nations if they find out that one little carbon molecule leaks out of their factory for any reason whatsoever. Don't go after them. Go after India and the Middle East and China. Go there. But you won't go there because if you stand up in front of Xi Jinping and say, "You have stolen my dreams and my childhood. How dare you?" the state-run media cameras will turn off and you will promptly be executed. And if you try to do it in Iran, which is also a super polluter, you will become the wife, by force, of some low-level guy in the Iranian Royal Guard. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood. So, yes, fat shamed by China. At least she's going in the right direction, though. At least she's going after the right people at this point. All right, from the Daily Wire. LA Times columnist, who likened Trump supporters to terrorists, wants real estate listings. No, you know what? I'm going to put this with thing that I hate. All right. Let's move that towards the end. Mini Lady Liberty statue heads to U.S. for July 4th celebrations. This comes to us from ABC News via the Associated Press. How dare you? A replica of the Statue of Liberty, smaller but based on the original plaster cast of the Big Sister on Liberty Island, a gift from France, was given a send-off on Monday before a trip to the U.S. where it will be displayed for Independence Day. The nearly 3-meter-high, nearly 10-foot-high bronze statue will make a 9-day trip across the Atlantic Ocean later this month. Sailing out aboard a container ship from the French port of Le Havre to Baltimore, it will then be transported to the U.S., arriving in time for July 4th celebrations. The Mini Lady Liberty is set to go on display in the gardens of the French Embassy in Washington, D.C., arriving there in time for France's Bastille Day celebration July 14th. The statue will stay there for the next decade. The monumental Statue of Liberty in New York's harbor by sculptor Auguste Bartholdi symbolizes the United States welcoming to its shores of immigrants seeking refuge and freedom. A gift to America in 1885, it also serves as a monument to the enduring French-American friendship. The Statue of Liberty is like our Eiffel Tower, said U.S. Embassy Representative Liam Wasley at the send-off ceremony, calling it an icon that symbolizes not just liberty, but the richness of our relations with France. The smaller version, heading to the U.S., has been displayed in Paris at the Musée des Arts et Métiers. The story has been corrected to show that the Statue of Liberty is on Liberty Island, not Ellis Island. And there's the little guy getting packaged up, ready to go. Oh, the little lady, not the little guy. So, that'll be coming here in about 10 days. I wonder how much CO2 it took to make that. All right, and the last one here, then we'll do a thing that I like and two things that I hate on the same vein. And then we'll head out of here for the day, starting with The Hill, or ending with The Hill, I should say. Changing America! Cher apologizes for calling Senator Gillibrand a traitor after a mix-up. The singer called out the wrong senator over ending the filibuster, from Joseph Guzman. Award-winning actress and singer Cher is apologizing for a mix-up involving Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Kirsten Gillibrand. In a Monday tweet that has since been deleted, Cher attacked Gillibrand and Senator Joe Manchin over their oppositions to doing away with the filibuster, saying the two were not Democrats but were traitors. If there is any way for New Yorkers to kick her out of the Senate, they must try before she hands our country to Trump and his criminals, Cher, who's been a fierce critic of the former president, tweeted. The only problem was Sinema is the Democratic senator who said that she would not support doing away with the rule, while Gillibrand has said on record that she supports eliminating the filibuster unless she can use it for her advantage, like when Republicans control the Senate. Hours later, Cher took the tweet down and issued an apology to Gillibrand for confusing her with the senator from Arizona. I must offer my deepest apologies to New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Cher tweeted. I made grave error of confusing her with Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Against my most sincere apologies to Senator Gillibrand and people of New York, she added. Orange man bad. Let's change the rules while we have power, so we always have power. And yes, continue to insult the people who have the ability to make the evil fucking turtle the majority leader again. Alright, that is the last one that we have here for today, and the end of the Thursday show is a thing that I like and a thing that I hate. By the way, I see that there are 15 people viewing right now, so if you guys are just lurking, throw a last minute message in there for me, because tomorrow I take... Where the hell is my notebook? Oh, it's under a drink cup over there. I write in my notebook the name of everybody who chats in the live chat throughout the day, and I thank you all personally on Friday. So if you guys are just lurking, get those last minute messages in so I can officially say thank you to you for coming and joining us. And we'll be back here tomorrow too, by the way. Now let's do a thing that I like and a couple things that I hate. Now, thing that I like today is, and I teased this at the top of the show, I put my vacation time in, and I will be taking some time off after the 4th of July. I will be here for the Monday show for 4th of July, and I will be here for the Red Ned show on the, on the 5th of July, not the 4th of July. I'll be here for the Red Ned show on the 5th of July as well. So I'll be here for both of those holidays. That's no problem. I'll come and do that. It's what I need to do. Plus, I don't know if I want to throw hosting duties over to somebody else for the Red Dead show. I can still do the tech. Elaine doesn't do the tech on this. I do the tech. So if she can't do the tech for this, I thought about possibly getting Harry McLeod to come in and do the tech for that, but I figured it's just easier for me to be here on Monday. So we'll be here for the Monday show for that, but we will have guest hosts for Tuesday through Friday that week. It looks like Stephen Ignoramus is going to guest host, and then he'll go just right on and do his show after that. John from the Generational Gap is probably going to... no, he's confirmed he's going to guest host. I know that I have Jessica Green, and I got to reach out to Fritz from Fritzcast to see if he's going to. Otherwise, I think Harvey's going to do so as well. I don't know who's going to be on what days, but I am going salmon fishing again, so hopefully I'll bring back some meat that I can eat through the rest of the summer as well. I love going out salmon fishing. It's great. I've only done it once, but it was very enjoyable just to sit out on the lake and be serene. My sister calls it trolling for fish, which is fine too because, the brother-in-law drives around on the boat. I usually sit back and do some reading, catch up on a little bit of work while I'm out there. It's a good time. I quite enjoy it. So I'll probably be in the live chat listening, but I'll be setting up the document for that. So I like the fact that this is going to happen, and you guys will get some new voices that some of you might not have heard before. Hopefully you guys will be able to come back and see what these guys are all about. Hopefully get some new follows, some new places to get news from. Everybody who has volunteered to come forward, which I've had 5 people volunteer, but only 4 of them I'm going to need to come forward to do this. They're great listens. I recommend even after all this, you go and listen to all their programs as well. Because, they're great friends too. So definitely go look forward to that. That will be the week of July 5th through, what the hell date is that weekend? Let me go look at the calendar here quick. The 5th through the 9th, but I will be here on the 5th. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. All right. Now let's do a couple things that I hate. Both of them have to do with real estate, it looks like, today, too. So let's throw the news feed back up and let's have a look. From the Daily Wire to start off with, LA Times columnist who likened Trump supporters to terrorists wants real estate listings to show gun ownership in the area. From Hank Berrien. On Tuesday, an opinion columnist for the LA Times, who seems to have hostility towards guns and contempt for Trump voters, offered a novel suggestion for people wishing to buy or rent a place to live. Make real estate listings delineate the prevalence of gun ownership within a 50-mile radius around the listed home. Virginia Heffernan tweeted, real estate listings should include prevalence of gun ownership in a 50-mile radius and a number of annual mass shootings in the region timed to change what a bad neighborhood is. And introduce a meaningful tax on guns and gun violence, she continued. No one should say this is a great place to raise kids about neighborhoods where one person has an assault rifle. The metric would be simple, she posited. Example, Staten Island, population 474,000, has 4 times the gun ownership per capita of the Bronx, 1.4 million. If that reads as safer or more freer, I'm guessing is what she tried to say. To some people, Staten Island is for them. If not, maybe it's time for the Bronx. I don't know my New York geography that well, but from what I understand, nobody should live in the Bronx, and nobody should aspire to live in the Bronx. And I might be wrong. Or it might be just split up, but from what I've heard from movies and stuff like that, the Bronx is kind of the ghetto, and I might be completely wrong because I've never been there. But that seems to be the implication that I get from most mainstream sources that are out there. So if that's true, then nobody should be aspiring to live in the Bronx. But I might be completely wrong. I should ask my resident New Yorker if that's actually true or not. Take race, class, and politics out of the real estate question. Well, it's actually illegal to have race in the politics question. And I know that because I'm taking my real estate licensing classes. It's actually illegal to have race, well, class, it's not so much, and politics, you kind of get that with class, but it's illegal to have race in the real estate question. It is 100% against the law. One of the examples the teacher keeps giving is, you've got your buyer comes in and says, I want to find a nice Jewish neighborhood to move into. Well, you have to do your own research on that because it's against federal law for me to specifically look for a nice Jewish neighborhood for you to move into. That is against federal and state laws. I don't know, it might vary state to state, but that is against a lot of laws to do. That is against a lot of laws to do. But as far as the gun ownership thing, let's have gun ownership be a part of the real estate. Anything to get a registry without having the government make a registry. Anything at all for you to go out and have that registry. You're going to try and skirt it because you've got to know who's got what gun and where. Because when the day comes, you want to be able to come back and take those motherfuckers. So, yes, let's do what the government can't do extra-gubernatorially. Fuck off. And the other thing that I hate today. Big investment companies are buying houses at high prices and renting them out, squeezing would-be homeowners. From Chris Pandolfo. Rising housing prices across the nation are putting first-time homebuyers in a bind. With record low interest rates to make mortgage financing incredibly easy, few people can actually afford to take advantage of these loans because the prices for houses are so high. Part of the problem has to do with soaring lumber costs, which is driving up the price of building. There's also a labor shortage for builders, which means that many would-be buyers fighting with each other to find pre-owned homes, which is driving up those prices. Those that can afford to buy a house are having trouble finding one for sale before someone else buys it. Another dimension of the problem is these first-time buyers aren't just competing amongst themselves, they're also facing competition from large investment companies who are buying up houses to turn them into single-family rentals, blocking many Americans from becoming homeowners. A new report from the Wall Street Journal details the rise of big investors as a potential force in the U.S. housing market. The story covers the example of Fundrise LLC, an online property investing platform that purchased 124 houses in Conroe, Texas for $32 million, paying building firm D.R. Horton roughly twice what it typically makes selling houses to the middle class, illustrating how home buyers stand to make more money by selling houses to investment firms instead of middle-class Americans who want to own their first home. Yeah, we're going to get to that point where they're going to push home ownership out the window. And that's part of the reason that I'm trying to get everything fixed up so I can get into this now. Now, I do have backups, and you don't have to worry about me never owning property because there are some things in place. I can't really talk about what's in place, but there are some things in place right now for down the road. But you still want to get your own property at some point before you're 40, because then you can sit here and read the news in the morning with a Cuban in your hand, or do the Red Net Show with a glass of bourbon and another Cuban in your hand. You can have that cigar. You can't do that when you rent, because almost every state at this point has anti-smoking laws on property. They don't even want you to be able to walk out onto your deck and smoke a cigarette anymore. I'm glad I quit, but I still like to have that cigar. And it's just, you want to do it. It's have your own property. You're still going to rent it from the government, but don't rent it from another corporation too. And one of the other things that goes along with that is these companies are realizing they don't need to buy office space anymore. So some of them are looking into the fact of, oh, well, I can buy property instead, and I'll get the rent off of that instead of having to rent out the property space or buy that or pay the taxes on that. I'll buy the house, and then I'll have my worker living in my house for me. So, yeah, this is just fucking ridiculous. I mean, you know what's happening. You know what's going to happen, but you got to have some competition too. I don't know what the solution is. I just hate it. I think it sucks. And with so many people losing their houses or losing their jobs and being forced to sell, the inventory is out there for these people to buy up. Now, if this was a good economy and people were able to stay in their houses, they wouldn't have anything to sell for the people to go back and snap up, for the investment firms to go back and snap up. But given the fact that, yeah, the mortgage crisis is going to hit ahead, the foreclosure crisis is going to hit, the rent crisis is going to hit, and some of these people are going to lose their homes, and your great host is going to leave his ringer on his phone. Yeah, this is disgusting. I hate this. I really do. So we got to figure out what the solution is, because I don't know. I'm just finding out about this now. So I'll probably think about this for a little while and try to figure it out. But the biggest part for me is to go and make sure that my own are taken care of, to buy the property that will be my own. We'll fix society after I'm taken care of. By the way, throw me a tip. The links are in the chat as well, or below, if you're over on the YouTube and over on the DLive. So help me out. Throw me a couple bucks. Help me go buy that house. All right, and that's going to be it for the day. So we're going to head on out of here. Let's change up the scene, and we'll be back here. Let's throw some music on, and then we'll start pedaling up the wares. Where's my music? Where's my outro music? What the shit? Did I close that? I did close that. All right, so thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. Come and hang out with us. I see some new names in here, and I'm thinking that Twitch might be promoting me too, because I see a lot more people on Twitch as well. So that'll be cool. They want to sell the advertising, so hey, we'll do their advertising as well. Remember, as I said on the top of the show, pay attention to all the backup platforms: DLive, Twitch, Trovo, Instagram, because if I do get shoved out, and I've got to back up Twitch as well, but if I get shoved out of one of these mainstream networks, I do have backups in place for that, but you won't see them unless you follow me on the other channels. So make sure you have a presence in all of those as well, because, I've already got the one hard strike. Now they're watching me over on the YouTube. So definitely, because you don't want to miss another minute of Contemporary. Or the Red Net Show too, because then I share the screen with a pretty girl. And I know a lot of you guys like pretty girls. So we'll be back here tomorrow for more Contemporary, and I will read the name of the live chat of everybody who participated in the live chat through the week. And remember, if your comments are spicy enough, bigoted enough, or stupid enough, they will raise the intellectual level of this program and will get read on the air. So make sure that you're not lurking tomorrow, and come back and join us for more Contemporary. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.